imagine that the Hornets do want to keep him. I just don't see him remaining with the team after this year, especially with the way the roster's set up. They really won't have any flexibility until 2020 at the earliest. They have players there like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who's still fairly young, a good defensive player, not much of a shooter at all. Marvin Williams, who's a good 31, 32-year-old 3-and-D player, but doesn't really provide much in terms of value, and both of them on our bad contracts. Obviously, Batum, who's, I believe, 28 now. Again, a decent player, but he's making a ton of money over the next 3 years. So I think the guy you keep is Jeremy Lamb. Younger player. They do have other young players like Kaminsky and Zeller as well, but really this is, one of the harder choices to make here just because of the fact that nobody else here is really someone you like salivate over keeping, but I think Jeremy Lamb is the safest bet to keep.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement there. You can make an argument, in my opinion, for Kaminsky, but Lamb's probably the better player. Okay, we have two more teams left. We have the Indiana Pacers. I think the first two, in my opinion, three guys to protect you are pretty easy. It's Miles Turner, Victor Oladipo, and Bojanovic.
Yeah, and I think the fourth player you keep, you just signed him, is Tyreke Evans. There are, again, other players you could consider. Sabonis. They did just sign Kyle O'Quinn as well.
Well, you have the Darren Collins. You have, who's the other point guard he played Corey Joseph. But, if you think Evans is the person to keep.
I think, especially with the way he played last year, he's still fairly young. I think he's definitely the one you keep here, especially because of how his three-point shot improved. I think it's easy to say that he's the one worth keeping, and if need be, obviously he's only signed a one-year contract, but he could easily re-sign with the team next year. They could offer him a decent amount of money if he does perform the same way he did last year, so I think this is a pretty easy choice as well.
All right, and the last team we're going to talk about is Detroit. This pains me to say it, but you probably have to protect Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin. And then third person is probably Luke Kennard, their pick. He played decently. I know they like him.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the fourth player?
Like you said, this is a tough one, but it was between Reggie Jackson and Reggie Bullock here. And being a North Carolina fan, I'm going to say Reggie Bullock is the one worth keeping. Reggie Jackson is a decent point guard, but Bullock is more of a modern-day player. He shoots the ball well. I think they'd be able to find the point guard to take Reggie Jackson's place if he does get selected. So I will go with keeping Bullock over Reggie Jackson in this situation.
Sure. I can be convinced doing that. Reggie Jackson's also not a great locker room guy. He's a ball stopper. So, it might help. Obviously, if you're Detroit now, you're just kind of screwed. But you're going to have to start developing players from, your next few draft picks to see what you can get.
Yeah, I think the one player who probably will end up in Detroit, if Memphis struggles this year and decides that they do put Conley on the trade block, I think he'd be the ideal fit there just because of the fact that they're screwed financially over the next 3-4 years anyway. With Griffin and Drummond there, you might as well take on another good player on a bad contract to try to win. So I think he'd be the ideal fit there if Memphis does decide that it's time for them to rebuild, which I think it's time for them to do anyway, but they don't apparently. So,
yeah, okay. So we just discussed all 30 teams. We discussed the 4 players that we are going to protect. On our next episode, we are going to do a snake draft where one of the rules is you could only take one player from the team. So we're going to, for instance, limit the fact that Boston's going to lose Hayward and Rozier.
Yeah. I think the way the snake format works is essentially if we'll probably do a paper, scissors, rocks over who gets to choose whether we want first pick or second, third, but it's going to be whoever has first pick, the next person has second, third, next person has fourth, fifth, then sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So essentially, after the first pick, each person makes 2 selections, and that's how the snake format works.
And we're going to build a 12-person team. We are going to go over the salaries of this team. So that is being taken into account. We don't want a team that's, obviously we're not going to put a team that's going to be $200 million. Yeah. We're not going to take all bad contracts on one team. We are going to be looking at, thinking probably the teams we're going to be looking at for the future. But if we can get a player that can win now, for instance, a Gordon Hayward is probably going to go.
Yeah.
If you have any questions or any concerns or any ideas, you think some of our picks are crazy here, you think we missed somebody, please feel free to send us an email at nbatradezones.com. You can start following us on Twitter at nbatradezone. One of the most important things is if you are on iTunes, can you please rate and review us, subscribe to our podcast. That was always very helpful.
Yeah, and we just look forward to hearing anything you have to say. And especially after our next episode when we make the selections, we will definitely be looking forward to hearing which team is better set up for the now and which team is better set up for the future, because we will get pretty competitive with this. And we'll have a lot of fun with it too. So thank you for listening.
And if you have any ideas you want us to send out, when we're going to continue doing these podcasts, even though it's the off season and training camp's going to start. But we are going to continue doing some. We're going to discuss some interesting trades from the past that didn't occur, some that did happen. We'll rate them. We'll see which ones were good.
I have a handful of ideas of trades that should occur before the season, which we'll do an episode on that.
So you have any ideas, any trades you want us to discuss or maybe look in, please send them our way. Thank you for listening. Let your friends know. I seen we were getting a little bit more listeners, so if you guys are telling other people about us, please keep spreading the word. We love getting new listeners and having new people listen to us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate your time.